Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Safe House, brought to you by the Safehouse Initiative. I'm Jeff Edwards, co-chair of the Safehouse Initiative and your host for today's podcast. Welcome back to part 2 of Navigating the Future, Federal Enterprise Prototypes and Threat Pursuit. Luke Henry started this conversation during our last episode as he shared his private sector journey and what led him to join forces with a threat hunter from the Air Force Office of Special Investigations and our guest today, Daron Hartvigsen. Darren, welcome to the Safe House.
Jeff, great to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me.
So Darren, it's your first time on the Safe House, so why don't you get acquainted with the audience and tell them a bit about your journey to where you are today?
I was a Air Force Office of Special Investigations technical services agent where, we were bug sweepers and we used to put body wires on sources when they would go to sell drugs and the like.
Just like in the movies.
Just like in the movies. And at the time, if you think about the late 90s, what was happening, everything was digitizing. So one of the things that we did was we took long range photos of doing surveillance. We'd either take still or video evidence as we were doing investigations. And in the late 90s, there was a push to digitize everything. Well, that was occurring, not just in the technical aspects, but also separately in the computer realm, right, where we were moving into networking writ large, and especially the Air Force kind of led the DoD in that realm. But as the sort of ecosystem was moving to connectivity and digitizing, I wanted to do that too. And we had a cadre of folks in our investigative unit called Computer Crimes Investigators. And I wanted to do that. That's essentially how I started. Along the way, as I evolved from computer crime investigator, going through training at DC3 and then moving into different units doing what then later evolved into cybercrime work, there was always I was always keeping some sensory of what was happening in the commercial space, because I just saw so much opportunity. So many of our colleagues had transition, taking that expertise that the government investigative world in cyberspace was in some cases trailblazing, and then transitioning to the commercial world. And I found over time, as I was moving through different roles out in the field, and then to a program manager's job at our headquarters, where I was the OSI cyber program manager, which was responsible for organizing, training, and equipping the global investigative workforce in a cyber context. And I always admired the folks that had either built cyber capabilities from the ground up in the commercial world, or left and done well in that world. And it was almost like, as I was eventually over at Andrews, Joint Base Andrews here in Maryland, where I led our group that was an operational entity. We had bifurcated our mission set in OSI to a large part of our operational capability was at Joint Base Andrews in Maryland, and the other sort of major operational capability was down at San Antonio, Texas, aligned with the obvious capabilities that are there as well. And always had a connection with the commercial world in different ways, but it was like this sort of scary environment that I always wondered if I could survive in. And I'd been a
Hmm.
government employee for a long time. I mean, one of our generals that ran OSI that um, encouraged me to uh, to look in the commercial space. That
Hmm.
as he transitioned in the commercial space, he saw some opportunities um, and thought that I might do well in that world, and kind of gave me some, um, I guess, encouragement, uh, or at least motivation
Yeah.
um, to take a look at the commercial space. 2016, 2017, 2018, especially in law enforcement, we were evolving to, and counterintelligence, we were evolving to a more active, uh,
Hmm.
I, one of the senior leaders would call it more active sport. In other words, not
Yeah.
just incident response. We're not just responding to things that happen. We want to go forward and counter. We want to, and then our team eventually kind of coined or captured the phrase pursue. We don't just want to respond to threat actors. We want to pursue them and do something to them. We want to bring them to justice. We want to
Yeah.
counter them. We want to find out who they are and what their um you know what their motivations are, and we want to do something about that. And so that really translated well into the evolution into commercial space. Monetization opportunities for
Yeah.
threat actors were just coming on scene as a um, significant, moneymaker. The ransomware groups
Yeah.
and extortion and the like. Exactly. And so um, the commercial world at the time, really the marketplace, I'll say, really responded well as I moved over to Ankara from the government space. Responded well to that more active um, work, and which also at the time cyber threat intelligence was really taking off. You
Yeah.
couldn't, 2019 or so, 2020, you couldn't pop open LinkedIn without being, knocked over with
Hmm.
you cyber threat intelligence. You
Yep.
post,
Yep.
and so it the transition for me was just sort of, I guess, lucky that I did it.
The way things are currently with a more of
Hmm.
a business bent for
Hmm.
government, streamlining
Hmm.
government. Do you see that it's almost inevitable that there's an integration happening of talents like
Hmm.
yours and Luke's are going to happen, whether you get your paycheck from the government or whether you get your paycheck from a commercial entity like Stone Turn? I would imagine that
Hmm.
there's going to be a streamlining effect that's going to permeate through the industry. Is that a fair assessment, do you think?
I think that's a fair assessment, and I think we're seeing a mass retooling of the
Yeah.
government,
Yeah.
especially in cyber, right? So I think
Yeah.
the news yesterday was that the CVE process, um, you know, administered by MITRE, but that NIST and CISA have a hand in to categorize and track common vulnerabilities that,
Yeah.
you know, all of those sort of governmental mechanisms, I think are going to be contested in different ways, whether it's funding or just
Hmm.
functional. Does it make
Yeah.
sense for them to be there? And so back when I was transitioning to the commercial space, and as Luke looked at the um, strategic direction he wanted to take the practice in at the time.
Mm-hmm.
The intermingling of a pure commercial talent and capability like Luke represents, that can take that business acumen and market knowledge and then tune somebody like me or somebody else from the government,
Yeah.
and make that a um, uh, a process or a capability that serves clients in a new and different way. I think is what is the government is going to eventually evolve to. I think we sort of see that with like
Yeah.
who is informing the current administration. You have I just described Luke as that pure commercial business savvy market knowledgeable leader that drives the practice forward. And we kind of see that with who's advising the administration right now. And I would suggest that there's at the minimum there's going to be a hybrid approach where
Mm.
commercial entities have either ownership or
Mm.
the impetus to lead in different ways in cyber that we might have thought that the government had primacy, and specifically the CVE is a very good example. And as that headline came out, I think yesterday, where MITRE was losing funding, and just to be clear, apparently CISA has decided to extend the funding for that, which was a part of the contract, that they had the
Mm.
option to do that. So apparently that's safe now. But to the point that you just asked, you know should one government be a sponsor to the CVE process that the world to a certain extent uses?
Yeah.
And the answer may be no. Maybe that's not right. And there's uh, a foundation that was stood up some time ago. I think they've been having this discussion for a while, but former uh, folks that had influence in the CVE process have decided that question about should there be one government sponsor that drives this. Um, they created this foundation to dig into that. Is the answer yes or the answer no? And um, and so there is already a move afoot to kind of make that what was once a government, centered process, um,
Mm.
more commercial. And I think we're going to see that. I think there's
Yeah.
going to be more opportunities for government employees, government
Yeah.
um, folks that bring that talent, so that when there is opportunities to do things maybe that the government is no longer doing, that they can pick that up and
Yeah.
run with. I think we're going to see, maybe next year we'll probably be looking back and um, as we see this transition where the government sheds some of these
Yes.
responsibilities or capabilities, that we're going to maybe see former government folks that have transitioned to the commercial world, run with
Yeah.
those, and potentially even you know um, turn those into business opportunities, or at least opportunities to continue to serve in
Yeah.
some ways.
Well, let me ask you, so if you had one bit of advice for the people who have been made available in one form or
Mhm.
another from the government with their skill sets, and they move in the transition to new opportunities in the commercial space, what would be the one thing you would recommend to all those folks out there that are in that transition right now that you did years ago on a very conscious level? Some of these
Mhm.
folks may not have consciously had time to deal with that they've been transitioned into this new
Yeah.
world. Yeah. So what would be the one recommendation you would give them? Anything they could do?
Yeah, I'll start it off with the one recommendation and maybe bolster that with some thought, but seek a mentor that's done it.
Yeah.
Right? And then derive strength from that mentor, because what I faced when I decided that I was going to do this is I derived strength from some of the folks that had done it before and that I
Yeah.
had seen be extremely successful in their post-government efforts, and um, and that strength, you know, it can be, especially if you're facing a a situation where it's unplanned, unexpected, and
Yep.
now you're sort of being faced with this, you
Yeah.
know, drive to the commercial world, so as the government, you know, does what it's doing, and the I think that strength um, should
Mm.
should um, in the knowledge that there other people. There's been many great examples of folks leaving the government and doing great things in the commercial space, and government employees, for the most part, really have a kind of a leg up when it comes um, to opportunities, especially in cyberspace. I would
Mm.
I would suggest that um, that folks in that situation should look to that opportunity and be optimistic
Yeah.
and know that they can do it. And there's great examples out there of folks that have come before them, and um, the I especially government employees now that are facing that uncertainty. I think that good mentor should be a source of encouragement, strength, and optimism, because there will be something that comes after this. Um,
Hmm.
there will be opportunities that arise. And that was a leap that I really had to take, was like, that uncertainty. Will I survive in the commercial world? Like,
Yeah.
will they
Yeah.
like me?
Yeah.
How does all this work? Those are all things that people go through, but it's that good mentorship that will help work through some of those, that anxiety or that uncertainty, and that mentorship often results in networking opportunities as well, in
Yeah.
which are you have to do. You have to reach out to people and seek their advice, and maybe even opportunities to connect with those that might have positions that are complementary to you. So um, I often talk to folks that are leaving law enforcement or counterintelligence, who reach out to me, just knowing that I've been in this space a little while, and the um, um, the overwhelming need really is encouragement that there's something else out here that they're probably going to find and like.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So be optimistic
yeah.
and seek a mentor that's done it before, that you respect,
Hmm.
derive some strength, but definitely project confidence in your abilities, and embrace what's to come.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's right.
Well, I'll tell you what, Darren, you've had quite a career, quite a storied career, and you've transitioned elegantly, and it sounds like with Luke and your current role at Stone Turn and all the fun things that you're doing. Um, well, I just want to tell you thank you for sharing your story with us, and the advice you gave is fantastic for all the folks out there. And there's a lot of them that need that insight, and you've helped a lot of folks with that. And so you're welcome back. Come back with us anytime, and love to dig a little more in that threat pursuit stuff at some point.
Would love to. More than happy to sit here and tell stories, Jeff. Thank you so much for that opportunity.
That's our podcast for today. I'm Jeff Edwards for the Safehouse Initiative. Thanks for joining us, and remember, be safe, be resilient, and be kind to each other. For more information about the Safehouse Initiative, please use your mobile device to scan the QR code on the screen or send us an email at info@safehouseinitiative.org or visit us on our website, safehouseinitiative.org. We look forward to hearing from you.